All right, Mr. Brennan. Mr. Brennan.
Present. Present.
What's going on with this thing? Mr. Burgess,
Present.
Gleaton. Ms. Mood is not here. Mr. Ratio is not here. Mr. Jenkins.
Thank you.
And Ms. Mood is here.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So, y'all here?
Yes.
Right. Pam, would you, confirm that we have a forum, please?
Yes, ma'am, we do. And the roll has just been called. Juliet, call the roll.
Great. Okay. Thank you all. And, the next item on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Seconded, Carolyn Gleason.
Thank you. So all in favor, want to call the roll again, please, please. Thank
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Slayton,
Yes.
Ms. Herbert, Ms. Mood,
Yes,
Ms. Tracio. Motion passes.
thank you. All right, so we'll hear from the Midlands Transit Riders Association. Walter?
Okay, thanks. Just one thing, and that is that since the schedules are now available in the customer service area of the transit station instead of in the rack, and there are signs up saying such, would it be possible for the Comet to put up a sign in Spanish or those who have trouble with English? That's our only question.
Okay, so can I just pass that along to the staff to follow through with that? Okay, a reasonable request, yes. Okay. That's it, all right?
Yeah.
So, and do I have a motion to adopt the minutes from July 13th?
So moved.
Thank you, and a second? I'll second that. And would you call the roll, saying, okay?
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. Burgess,
Yes.
Slayton,
Yes.
Ms. Herbert, Ms. Mood,
Yes.
Ms. Tracio. Passes.
Thank you. 1 minute adopted, and we'll move to item 5A on the passenger amenities program. We can see, is that what is, all right, go ahead, Ms. McGee.
Yes, good afternoon. So reporting on the last month, we did not receive any approved permits within the past month. AOS has stop number 1407 under construction. I believe this week they're actually working on it. And then also we continued to meet with Eric Harrison. He mentioned that we may have some new stops coming sometime soon to get started on design wise. So we look forward to that if that comes, but otherwise didn't have any major updates for the past month.
Does anyone have questions for Mr. McGee?
Madam Chair, you mentioned some new stops. Where are you getting these new stops from?
Those, so meeting with Eric, he typically provides us direction on stops to work on. So I have not seen them yet, so I don't know where any of them
We're
are.
not talking
but
about new bus stops, but new stops where we would be adding a bench or.
Correct. They would be existing bus stops. Yes.
Okay. Does that clarify, Mr.
Yeah,
Burgess?
yeah.
All right, well, if there are no other questions, we thank you for that report. And we'll move to the transit operations report, Mr. Fitz.
Yes, good afternoon. We'll just jump right into this. Starting off with our COVID-19, as of 8/4, was putting together the numbers, we had at that time three individuals that were quarantined. What we have seen, we had as many as 9 throughout the month. Really impacted our maintenance department, so I want to give them kudos for getting through that. We had to make some major adjustments there. Since then, all those individuals have returned, but we've seen a major spike in COVID, and so that's why I also have Mr. Franklin here. He's going to briefly tell you about our ZEP cleaning program, our COVID-19 cleaning measures. Mr. Franklin, if you could take just a few minutes to talk through the 2 slides you provided to the group and kind of share what we're doing in that area.
Thank you. So about a year ago, RETP Dev and TCS got together and we got with ZEP. And they have this ZEP Assure program that they instilled. Most of it is done in your food processing factories, things like that. But they started doing on the transportation side. So it's a 3-step process that goes into play. One's a deep cleaning process. After you do the deep cleaning, then there's a sanitation and primer, and then there's an armor coating. And what this process does is we clean the vehicles very thoroughly. We use electrostatic sprayers to be able to lay down a layer of disinfectant. The disinfectant that we are utilizing is an aviation disinfectant. So what this disinfectant only allows it to be wet for 60 seconds. During that 60-second time frame, it's all it needs to be on a product or on any type of high touch areas. And it disinfects the entire area. And this product is actually designed and approved by the EPA for the SARS-CoV-19 as well. There's also a list of about 30 other things in place, and half of them I can't pronounce, so I'm not going to try. And then this armor coating seals it on top of it. So it takes all that stuff and seals it, and then it doesn't allow bacteria to grow or spread once it's on this. Now, this armor protection coating that we put on, you cannot remove it by using cleaners. It can either be removed by constant friction, rubbing, or industrial style bleach, which we don't use. So it's on there. They do recommend this product. They guarantee it to last a minimum of 8 months to 12 months. So we decided, as a group, we're not going to get to that 8-month period. We're going to go ahead and do it every 6 months. So there's stickers on the buses that say the ZEP Assure program. So on every bus, everyone that we've done. We've gone through the process twice. So what we actually did was we took the bacteria levels from the beginning to test it out. On the very first bus that we did, bacteria levels were between 900 to 1,000 milligrams. Once we finished cleaning it, we were down to about 100. 6 months later, when we retested them, the highest levels we got was 125. 100 to 120 is what they keep operating rooms at. Anything below 100 is the food processing plant. Now, if we want to get to the 100, we have to do this almost on a daily basis, and it takes too much time. It takes about an hour for us to get it done. But since we started this program, as you can relate, is our COVID numbers before we started it, when we had drivers out, we were at 19 or 20 drivers. We were getting phone calls from passengers saying that they have it. Contact tracing was a nightmare. Now, our contact tracing, we can do it within 30 minutes. And as you can see, our average numbers, so it's protecting the drivers, it's protecting the passengers. We're also looking at the aspect that we can utilize this in other areas. So we're going to get with a comment and, RTP Dev and see if we want to be able to span this out into buildings or other areas, things like that. We can definitely look at and go through it. But the really nice thing about it is the high touch areas. we don't have to, we don't have to hand wipe it. It's all electrostatic sprayers, so it sticks. The other nice thing that we liked about this program is this armor coating did two things. One, it helped us clean the vehicles faster because it puts a polymer on top of the surface. So when somebody goes and writes nicely by those little pictures on the walls, we can just use a regular cleaner and a rag and it wipes off. You don't have to scrub it because it doesn't penetrate floors. So we're noticing that the floors are a lot cleaner. We're able to get them and keep them cleaner. So it did two folds, but the major part we did this for was the COVID-19. And we do track it, we do test it, and the vehicles are scrubbed from the top sign rail where we know nobody can reach all the way down to the floor. So that's pretty much all I have. If anybody has questions on it.
Do you have questions for Mr. Franklin? Well, I just want to say, I appreciate the extra effort that you're making in terms of the deep cleaning and to minimize any kind of spread through surface touching. I'm also aware that the highest risk always still is going to be airborne. And I just wondered if those of you who are in touch with the ridership and the drivers, what you're noticing about masking behavior, because now that we can't require that, I just wondered what you're seeing in terms of riders and drivers.
Yeah, it's about 50%, of people that do and don't. We are speaking to our ops manager and our safety manager on circling back with the employees and making sure that we're masking because we have seen this spike. The danger of this one compared to previously, what we've seen just recently is you can come in on a Monday, have one case, by Thursday, you got 20, because it moves so quickly. Even though you may get them back, it may not be as strong as far as hospitalizations and things of that nature, but it still impacts our operation if I don't have people here. So, taking precautions on our end is to go back to those things that we know work and then move forward from there, just because we've seen it recently ramp up overnight. And it
Well, I
impacts
think
us.
from all that I can read and understand, I think you're exactly right, that this variant is just extraordinarily contagious and quickly. And so the best protections that we have, as you said, of what we know, and that is to block it by the use of masks. And we don't have the same kind of leverage with passengers, and we know they come to ride the bus from a whole set of contacts. They go back out to a whole set of contacts. I think all we can do is the best we can, and that is what you're saying is having our people model the behavior that we'd like to see everybody use, and then have reminders of our encouraging and then urging the people in this time. What I've seen in our area is that we still have a pretty high rate of community spread. Some of the cases have kind of gone up and down a little bit. The hospitalizations have gone up. And what I understand is that we're still seeing in terms of hospitalizations and deaths, that those are really still occurring predominantly in unvaccinated people. But that they're not protected from the illness. So I appreciate that extra effort, and thank you for it.
Thank you, Dennis. And we'll keep that up there day in and day out, getting that done. Moving on to our customer service report out. We have seen what I call a trifecta in reductions, at least last month, as far as our customer complaints. Also our safety category decrease, as well as reliability. So not often do I get a chance to say in all three areas we've seen a reduction. So, good numbers for the month of July in reference to those particular categories. I would like to recognize employees of the month. Mr. Clayton Odom. He's 15 years in the maintenance department. My understanding that he enjoys vacations in Florida, which I don't blame him there. And, he loves seafood, so, hey, who does it, right? In many cases. So again, we'd like to congratulate him. He does a fine job. And also on our, CCS side and our paratransit side, I had mentioned this individual at the board meeting, Ms. Karen Williams. She's an amazing team player, great customer interaction, and is a safe driver. So, excuse me, we'd like to thank those two individuals for doing great work, and very proud to have them here as part of the family. So good job to them. Moving on into our maintenance area, we were able to complete our scheduled PMI. Again, we have a long running streak of that, so good job to them. And just keep this in mind, we were down to 3 mechanics in July from 12. And we, so, and during a portion, that's that ramping up that I mentioned about the COVID, I can come out of nowhere. But, the team over there jumped in, made some adjustments to their schedules, it's a 24-hour ordeal. Made the right adjustments, and, I'd like to thank them, and again, we were able to get that done. For that group, so giving them kudos. As far as our results, our PM results, preventive maintenance road call, mile between road call, numbers still hovered around what we saw in June and July. Still having some challenges, or at least this month, on getting parts. Parts is a good part of this issue. What in talking to the maintenance team, what they're doing is it's more in and around the exhaust system and filters. And what we're doing is we're recleaning those and reusing them, as opposed to not being able to get them. So what you're doing is you're trying to stretch the useful life of certain parts that are safe to do so. So that has impacted us. We start to see and feel that. So we're just hoping to just kind of things break loose a little bit for us, and we'll get an opportunity to get those numbers back up. So
are you saying that what results in a road call, that you're seeing some patterns around certain parts?
around getting parts, because what happens when you're reusing the parts or stretching them for useful to get more life out of them, they don't last as long. So you may have a situation.
And you can't predict when they are.
You can't predict that, other than when it's just absolutely useless and you can no longer use it. It's just it's slow on the parts piece, on getting certain particular parts.
Well, and I know that road calls can vary from mechanical failure,
Right.
which you're describing, to things like cleanup,
Right.
things, those sort of things.
That's
So
correct.
that's not part of it. It's not.
I
a
think
big
it's
deal.
mostly on our, just getting our parts
Okay.
and talking with the maintenance team. It's in and around there's so many different moving parts in the exhaust system of the bus, the pieces that are challenging to get right now. So that seems to be our challenge, at least for this previous month. So.
Any questions this committee has for Mr. Cooksey about that? Right, so pass on.
Yes, ma'am. And looking at our on-time performance for the month of July, in both para and fixed route, we did see an increase in those areas. So we are, as we had predicted previously, starting to see those on the fixed route side, those incremental climbs. We are currently working through a variety of things with Mr. Hubble on really kind of our OTP2 project, where we're just looking at individual running times on the routes. A lot of feedback that we got back from the operators, we got back from public comment. We're looking at all of those things and making some minor tweaks to even get better for more improvement. Like we mentioned before, this is a kind of an ongoing situation. You're constantly looking at your routes where you can get better as far as timing. And we're still working with our staff, working with the operators as well on, because it was a big change for them in the sense of how you operate, how you drive your route, how you manage your time. So that's going to constantly be ongoing, because we get a lot of new people in. So you still have, when you get new people in, it's constant training and retraining and things of that nature. But we did see an increase in both para and fixed for the month of July.
Well, and I'm encouraged to see that we are making some incremental, because that first big leap was
Right.
great. And then I expect that the closer we get to the target, the harder we have to work to make those,
Yes.
get rid of them. Scrub them.
Right, and on that second slide, if you notice, it says on-time performance has just a little kind of bar graph there, a line graph. It just kind of shows you the trend of where we were just a few months ago, and on mostly all of last year to where we are right now. So with room for improvement, we're continuing to work on that, so.
Any questions about on-time performance, Mr. Gibson? All right, keep going.
Okay, great. So we'll move into our ridership summary on our all aboard. I noticed here that we weren't able to get it corrected, so I'll have to circle back. But looking at our ridership from July of 22 compared to July of 21, it says 117,893. That actually should be 111,695. And again, I'll go back in and make that correction.
That was for 21.
That was for 21. So what we're seeing in June and July, or what we saw, is we are improving over 22 versus 21. So I think last month and this month was the first time in a long time that we've seen we're outperforming the previous year. Even though the numbers are still down, overall, but you do see that trend happening on all aboard. So compared to the previous month, however, we were down about 2.5% July versus June. So not as big a dip as previously, but a little bit of a small dip there. And on our average daily ridership slide, that's where it really shows you that from June and July, if we are comparing 21 to 22, you're looking at like 8 and 6% increase over the previous year. So that's a good trend, and really only look up from here, and then we are looking for larger numbers to come up in August because school starts back and things kind of get ramped back up for the month of August going forward. So
Just, do you have at your fingertips what our peak ridership is? And what is our kind of highest ever?
I do not, but I can run that information.
It'd be interesting
down.
to just
Yeah.
to know how that.
Okay. Yes, I'll get that tracked down. So that kind of shows you there again, good trend, still down, but good trend means we eclipsing what we were doing in 21. If we take a look at our, and if just for information purposes, we, increased our top 5 routes that increases versus 21, increase and decrease numbers. So that's just kind of give you a snapshot of what those look like, and just kind of after that as we go along to kind of get an idea on that. Our Gamecock ridership, we did have a decrease versus June, but as we know, on August 18th, school starts back. We'll start to see those numbers climb. In fact, I believe today, today, the 14th is another day was given to me. I believe the students are starting to move in. So there's activity starting to take place already. So we'll look forward to seeing what those numbers look like this fall. Should be a pretty busy fall, I think, this year and going forward. So I just wanted to report that out. In reference to our DART ridership, our requested trips are again down versus 21, and then we have in here just to kind of give you a snapshot of pre-COVID, still considerably down versus what was happening in 2019 and also for 2021. We noticed that we did have, as far as our cancellations, they're more so at par for 2019. I don't know if Mr. Franklin is here, if he has any comment in reference to like any no-show, cancel at the door, same day cancel, what you're seeing as far as those particular trends, or what do you think where do you think that's going in the future?
As of right now, we're seeing a better increase in our cancellation rate. Before we were looking at 16 to 18%, per month. Now we're just under 10%. I like to get that even further down. We are working with the comment. There's a new software package coming into Trapeze that's going to allow us to manage this on, instead of manually doing it, we're gonna be able to do it via software. Giving people notifications, we're gonna make sure that it's all in alignment with our no-show policy, our cancellation policy, and holding people accountable, passengers for those infractions. So we've had a few people that we communicate with all the time about their no-show policies. But this is gonna allow us to be able to track it more efficiently than having to do it 100% manually.
I'm looking at the same day cancellations from 2019 to 2022. That seems to be a significant difference. I don't know what accounts for that, but
Well, a lot of it was, I can tell you, I've done a lot of cleanup on the subscriptions. So there was a lot of subscriptions that were still put in play that should have maybe have been canceled ahead of time. So yes, people calling up today saying, oh, I don't need that ride because I'm not sure if you guys recall, but we do have an IVR system that calls the passenger the day before and reminds them that they have an appointment for tomorrow. Well, depends on the time they get that phone call, they check the message, they call the next morning going, oh, well, I don't need that ride. So that's the same day cancellation. But a lot of that reminders now are going the day before. So those are going into a cancel in advance, which allows us to move things around and be able to book those and still be able to book trips where those cancellations come from. So they cancel more in advance.
let's just be more efficient. Okay.
Yeah, very good. Thanks a lot. So quite a bit of data there, Mr. Franklin, but again, thank you and thank you for the work you guys do. Moving on into our safety side of it, a couple of things that part of this month's safety initiatives, curbing and distracted driving. Some of the things that we do are, safety announcements, our securement, our mandatory, safety bulletins, inspections, things of that nature. We had 3 preventable accidents for the month of July. And I don't have the number we had last month. I think it's up over. I think we just had one last month. And moving on to our safety performance, kind of gives you more of a breakdown of our total number of accidents that were non-preventable and preventable, kind of combined together with the number of injuries. What you don't see here is the last major accident. That's still under litigation. And
I wondered if we were hearing from that investigation too.
Yeah.
We have not.
not yet, other than it's still under litigation, that case. So I have not received any written.
And then what is the entity that does the investigation?
We had on this particular case, we have a third party that were hired to investigate all aspects of this particular accident. And they will issue, and of course, we have our corporate safety, the national level involved in this particular case. So all of those entities, along with the legal team, work on that particular case. So I don't have any more information to report out on it. It'll be relayed back down to me once a final has been moving on that. And then at that time, based on whatever the outcome is, this particular presentation will be updated with that information, which is here at the time I was putting this together. One thing that we have seen, and moving on to our human resources, we do have 3 new students or trainees that are coming out of training this month, or this week. We're holding pretty steady on our head count. Our most recent is 120 fixed route operators. We've noticed, not just here, across the country, it's been a struggle getting operators. What we have seen is we'll schedule a class of 10. We may get 5 that will show up, for the training, and then of the 5, 3, in most cases, will actually make it all the way through or decide, hey, this is for me. So that we've kind of seen that trend. So what we've done is sitting down with HR, we've kind of projected out how many classes we need to hire, how many people based on our turnover rate, looking at our attrition rate and looking at the number that actually come through, make it to revenue service, so we can stay balanced to try to get ahead of this. We're in a pretty good position, comparatively speaking, but it's taken a lot of work behind the scenes to kind of project what that looks like and you know, and the numbers, how they move, right?
And what are the training cycles? How frequently do we start a new training?
Well, right now, I've ramped up the hiring to try to put us in position to get through the fall, just based on last year. So generally, right now, we've been starting a class every week over the last month. However, the goal is to get to once a month. And if you recall, you know, and looking at this, and we still have room to do that and still not overstaffed, because you have to look at your attrition rate of what we lose per month, just for a variety of reasons, say find other jobs or other situations. But if we look at what happened to us last year around November, December, and January, fortunately, we were staffed at a decent rate. But if looking at this virus and what it can do in a very short period of time, we really need to be at a head count where we can absorb this, and at a number where we can say, okay, we can take the hit, still put service on the street. So I'm looking long-term, at least 3 to 4 months out, because if we follow the same track, we're gonna have a similar situation this year.
So is that caused you to have to, I'm trying to remember the term that I'm looking for, but is that caused you to have a larger number of people kind of standing by on any day?
Yeah, it's called your extra board.
Yes. that's right.
You know, in the fact that when we do hire, there's still a cap, right? And we're under our cap where we need to be, and we're within I call it the sweet spot. But we need to be near the top of the cap to still not have people sitting around, which in most cases won't happen, because you have enough other situations that happen every day on your standby list where you need to use operators in different places. So, you know, my goal is to get us as close to the cap as we can, so we can withstand anything that may come for us in October, November, December. One of the things I mentioned last time, we had Dr. Daniels here, and what he mentioned in his town hall was that he felt from his research that we were, and this was back in November of last year, December, that we were only halfway through the pandemic. And many people probably raised their eye, oh, there's no way this thing is dying down. But then we had the Omicron variant. Now we're looking at this variant. So if you look at what he was saying, he was pretty much right on. Means we're not out of it. We have at least a quarter or more left to deal with this at this level where things will level out. So kind of taking that information, taking what we've done, what we've seen, and that's how we're working through our staffing, just trying to position ourselves to continue to offer service, you know, be able to offer service. So,
And so what is our attrition rate now?
we lose about 2.68 operators per month. That's our latest data that fluctuates. So, and that's for a variety of reasons. You know, it's competitive out there as well. So there are some jobs that pay more or may have better hours, or you have people that get sick and they can no longer drive, or they're, you know, we've had some cases and we had an individual had to resign. They had to take care of a parent who was elderly, and they just couldn't, you know, do this particular schedule. It just changes. Things happen in people's lives. So that's what our rate looks like now, and that's what we counter against that to try to prepare ourselves. So we put a lot of work into the staffing and recruiting and retention of our operators. So if we move on to our KPI indicator to kind of close this out, we managed to still fall short of our on-time performance target, but we have made headway in that area as far as fixed route. Paratransit has eclipsed their target. Our mean distance between road miles, we're under our target number We know why, so we're, constantly monitoring that. In the areas of customer complaints, we are exceeding that target. And also in preventable accidents, we're exceeding that target as well. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. All right, that takes us to 5C, and you have a chart.
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes, yes.
this is Will Brennan. I've had a question and
Sure,
concern for Mr. Cooksey on operations.
Okay.
Residents, City of Columbia, the City of Columbia is making a push for beautification efforts along our corridors. We are getting a lot of emails and comments about cleanliness of our bus stops and the upkeep of them. Recently, there's been an uptick in those from council members, and they send them my way. Can you review your operations for cleanliness, not just for litter, but also landscaping, weed cutting, all that, as we move to really put an emphasis on beautification in our major corridors in the city?
Right. Well, we do have a contractor that does as far as our bus stop cleanliness and emptying trash and cleaning up those particular stops. They do a pretty robust program. When they're out majority of the week, visiting the different stops along the corridors to pick up any trash and to clean up anything that may need it. We also have internal 2 individuals that are also assigned that go out into pressure washing and also follow up and kind of check against what our contractor is doing as well in the bus stop cleaning area. They're all.
Are those in the form of written reports as, satisfactory, needs to do better? What's the report look like to you as the operator that has the final, needs to know?
Well, we get back, what I get back is a list of all of the stops that have been cleaned or have been visited and cleaned within that month. The checklist that we have they don't provide, it's not written provision of the checklist. We are required to go out and do, spot check. There's a document that is to be used to go out and spot check the stops within our system. What we are working on incorporating is in our electronic system is to also give another level of checks, as you might say, and we'll be able to capture this in the near future, which I'm looking forward to, is an opportunity for, because we run every route, but we're out there all day. Our bus drivers see every bus stop. Is in our system is to build in what I call a canned message, that if, when an operator sees a bus stop that may need attention, they would be able to send a notification through the system, and it will be routed to our internal bus stop cleaning crew, not the contractor. Then we would be able to follow up immediately on some of the stops. So you may clean a stop, say at 2 o'clock, and then by 3 or 4 o'clock, someone may come and throw trash on it, but they've already visited that stop. But what happens here with this new system I'm looking for, how we would combat that is through electronically through the notification system. So once if that happens, we would see it within the headway of the bus. It would be reported back, and then someone would be dispatched within our group, dispatched to that bus stop immediately to be able to clean it up. So it would help us kind of track it better. I think the way prior to that is more of kind of you're driving around, you're spot checking, you may see something, you may not. This allows every bus all day, every day, send notifications back, and then we would have an electronic log of it because it would be captured.
Yeah, no, Mr. Cooksey, I think that is a fantastic reporting mechanism to give control to our operators. What's the timeline? Is it a
Well, I'm
priority to
hoping
put that in place?
Yeah, I'm hoping within the next 30 days is to have that in place and working. It's possibly less. This is something that I had looked at previously. We didn't have the full capability to do that only up until recently when we launched our Operations Control Center, because that is kind of our hub of our operation. And now that is a place where everything would feed into. So we've kind of reconfigured that in a way that it would, previously we just didn't have a way to monitor it, but now we're able to. And we're really just getting that off the ground. So that was part of my initial thought early on as a way to really track it. I worked at another system and that's how we did it. And it's very effective. So we'll be moving in that direction here.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And Chairman Mood, I would like for this service committee to make that a priority, to see that put into place, not only for the municipality routes, but all routes. I think that reporting is a wonderful mechanism. That's something the city of Columbia is trying to put in place with our public works vehicles to report road maintenance issues that are needed, whether that's a county, municipal, or state road. So there's always that gap in the cleaning service, no matter what. And I think this would help fill in that gap in the beautification efforts and really make a difference for everybody. So I appreciate that update and look forward to seeing that put in place, sir.
Okay, I have a couple of things came to my mind. One is, Will and the other members of the committee, that if you haven't had a chance when you're in the building to stop by to see that control center,
Yes.
It really is, I think you'll be impressed with what is available to the person monitoring that visually in the system at all times. I really didn't realize that we had that kind of capability in place to pull all of that together, but I think you'd be reassured, and I'd encourage you to just stop by and see that center when you're in the building. The second thing I thought of is, and where you might be the best one to help us see this in terms of your the fellow councilman receiving an uptake in a rise in complaints, whether you're able to determine whether you're getting a lot of complaints about a limited number of stops, or whether it's a widely dispersed, whether there are a few complaints widely dispersed, because I think my sense is that if there are some places that hit people in the eye, you're going to get a number of calls about the same ones. And I think it would help. I would expect it would help Mr. Cooksey and his staff too, to know whether there's some places that we ought to be paying particular attention.
Yeah, you're absolutely, Chairman Mood. I completely, I think you're on point with that. And I would imagine the ones that we hear about via municipality residents is probably on the list of service, probably the top 10 most serviced stops for our operator.
The higher,
so I think there's definitely a code. Right, exactly. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, and then the only other
Is there any way that you can report back, Mr. Sir, what service calls, what stops get the most service calls for beautification litter callbacks?
Yes, we'll dig through what data we have available and report back on the five. Yes,
now,
sir.
the one other thing I was listening for is that, I'm hearing the litter pickup and I'm hearing the cleaning. Who's responsible for grass cutting and weed control? Because our stops are in public right of way, but is that a service we do, or is that something that someone else is responsible for?
Actually, the city, they're responsible for the major maintenance, but right around the bus stop area, the RATP Dale staff, they do like the minor. Yeah, I think they take weed eaters and
Yes,
stuff out.
weed eaters.
Okay, I didn't even know if we were equipped to
Yes.
do that. Okay.
Yeah, anything major is the city, like cutting limbs and all that, and the major grass cutting is the city.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know.
And also, I'll add, this is Leroy, we also get reports too that we monitor, myself and Jackie. So if we see where stop constantly pops up, then we'll make sure that they're served. And sometimes they'll go from just a regular service list to what we call our heavy hitter list because we know they need more service. So
Uh-huh.
we try to monitor that to assist them also.
Great, so kind of have dual oversight of that. Right. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Cookson? Okay, then we can move on to the,
Madam Chair,
yes, Mr. Burgess.
before we go to Ridership, can we get staff to give us a briefing on the Lexington meeting?
On the Lexington meeting.
Yes, on the service meeting they have in Lexington.
Leesville, maybe?
Mr. Ferguson,
Oh, you mean on Batesburg, Leesville? Is that what you're talking about?
No, they had a meeting in Lexington last week.
yes, this is
on
Roslyn.
the-
Yeah, this is Roslyn. Jackie and I went over to meet with West Columbia, City of West Columbia, to discuss their funding efforts. Long story short, the previous fiscal year, they did not do any funding, so it came around to new fiscal year, new time to, see what's gonna happen. Their stance is they want a voting seat on the board in order to provide that funding. We've turned this whole thing over to legal to handle from here on out, but, the short of it is they want a voting seat on the board. In
All right,
exchange
so-
for funding.
This is all new information to me. I've not heard any of this, but what I'm thinking about is that at one point in time, Lexington had a process where the county government, had a transportation group that they convened, and all the jurisdictions who paid in, and made commitments to pay in were part of that, and they monitored that through that process so that the amount of money that was necessary to run the routes was budgeted for, and they took responsibility for them of collecting those funds. Is that not happening?
So what has happened, or, so I guess what's happened with the agreement, you're right, Ms. Little, that is how it should have been handled. But there had been some discussions about those jurisdictions, I guess, separating from under Lexington County and being their own entity, so to say, under the IGA that's in place. So that's one of the hiccups we're having, but, yeah, you're right. Lexington County should be the one that handles those jurisdictions that are underneath them. But when it came to them, we could cancel the current IGA and make separate ones for those others like West Columbia, Springdale, Casey. That's where the problem came in. So,
But we haven't made any changes in the IGA. We still have the same participants. And do we have?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Burgess.
since they're getting so deep, maybe they should make sure that this is on the board agenda. Because everything that's mentioned is over staff head.
Well, I think you're right, Mr. Burgess, because I think it also certainly goes beyond a service committee jurisdiction if you have, because when you start talking about the structure of the IGA, that clearly is at the level of a board.
And Ms. Booth, I'll just kind of add just a little to that. Like Roz mentioned, after they met with them last week, this was forwarded over to legal. So we had a meeting with them, and their plans is they've got some work that they want to do, some contact that they want to make, and discussions that they want to have. And from there, this would be brought to the board. So they know it's a board issue, and it's just all the sensitive information and everything that's there, and the kind of due diligence that they feel that they need to do before presenting.
So are we talking about, Ross, just from the financial perspective, are we talking about funds that were committed but never paid? Is that?
I wouldn't use the term committed, like say each jurisdiction, like say Lexington County and those underneath Lexington County were given a budget based on their service level. And Lexington County's stance was, you know, we're gonna get the service regardless, so why should we kind of pay? And I don't wanna, you know, say too much out loud, but like I said, again, we kind of passed it over to legal. So they didn't put in any funding, so it's coming down to if they're not gonna do funding for this year, how do we proceed? Because the IGA says we can restrict service to their area. Kind of know that they do need.
Yeah, well, I
that
know
service.
we've always operated on the basis that Lexington's choice was to pay for the service that was covered, and then that if they, in the
had a-
years that I was sitting in those transportation group meetings, then if a jurisdiction said we can only do this much, then they had to come up with what service would be reduced in order to make it fit. And that was their choice of the kinds of way to, I feel like I have a responsibility representing Lexington County to do a little homework myself on what's going on with the folks there. So
But,
so
Madam
I'll
Chair,
do some follow up on that simply from my role of representing that county on the board.
yeah, but Madam Chair,
Yes.
I heard that it's gone to legal, but I'm thinking this has to go to the board before it goes to legal.
What I
Because
was
you got three entities involved. You got city, county, and the legislative delegation.
Yeah, and
So,
what
you
I
know-
was hearing was that what legal was doing is making sure they have all of the information that's necessary to bring it to the board. Is that correct?
That's our understanding.
So not that they are taking a responsibility for acting, but that they are trying to make sure they have the answers to the questions that are likely to come up if it comes.
I'm still requesting that this be on the next board's agenda. Because all the entities are represented there. So they should have that input before we do it, because we've come upon this before. This isn't new to some of us about what's going on. So the new members need to be abreast of this.
Okay,
Thank you very
All right.
much.
all right, I'll follow up on both of those. All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Would it be agendized? Just question for clarification. Would it be agendized as what? What do we call it?
Well, I'm gonna talk to Mr. Huggins and to the board chair to see how we should do this.
Okay.
Mhm.
Does that sound appropriate?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just think we just need to be abreast of it since all three entities are on our board.
Yes.
So we need to know it and give legal some guidance rather than it go backwards. We were real close to something crazy before John left, So we just seeing that old monster again because he left the bones out there.
All right, we will follow through on that so that
Thank you.
so that becomes
Okay.
gets put in
Madam Chair.
a place that it can be decided. Yes.
Madam Chair, this is Skip Jenkins.
Yes.
When you follow up on that information, is it something that you can relate to myself so I can get with City of Casey to find out is it something that we need to be doing?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jenkins. I surely will.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else on that? All right. Well, what I was going to say about the next item, the 5C on the ridership analysis, that we have that the route table on the back, but Eric Harris asked if he could be excused from today's board meetings. Committee meeting. Many of you probably know that after the birth of their baby, his wife has had some what sound like significant complications, and so he's staying pretty close there to get her through this I don't want to label it a crisis, but it certainly, it has been a, pretty demanding situation. So that's where Eric is, and I know that we hold him in it and all his whole family in our thoughts, and I think for today's meeting, we just want to try to focus on the route analysis on ridership, without his help, and hope that he'll be back with us at the next meeting. All right, on the Lucius Road Superstop, Leroy, can you just report to us on that?
Sure. Just an update on the Lucius Road Superstop. It's continuing to happen and progress forward. I guess the big issue that we were working with over the past weeks was the dirt. We found out we had some suitable soils, some not suitable, but we've kind of worked through that to a point where we needed the good dirt, we were able to get that in place where they can compact. And the next big step would be for them to get down the asphalt. They have started that process in one area, it's completed, but in I guess the major portion of the project, hopefully they'll be getting the asphalt there. We still have to address the unsuitable dirt that's out there, but we're in the process of working through that with our project manager and the contractors. While I guess as you all know, going through a construction process is pretty challenging at times, but I feel that with the unexpected issues that have come up, we feel that we're still able to work on those things, but keep the project on target. Still, the challenges that we look at is possibly some delay as we look at installing the infrastructure as far as the cameras and the wiring out there. But as we, like I said, we just stay in constant communications with the contractors and the project manager through our meetings to try to keep things moving along and just trying to resolve the issues that are coming up. Basically, the project is, they defined it as 60% completed. And again, the other big portion now is just really getting the asphalt down. And then from there, we're hoping as we get into September, the middle of September, we'll get the installation of the shelters and everything. So just trying to keep everything on track, which we are. We haven't had any safety issues out there, which is always good when you're dealing with a project of this size or any project, really. And unless there's any questions, that's pretty much where we are. And it's required a lot of staff of focusing and trying to make decisions and working with the contractors and the project manager to keep this project on target.
All right, well, I'm way over my head in terms of what this involves, but when you say, so I'm not sure what unsuitable dirt is. I mean, are we talking about dirt that's stable enough to pour asphalt on, or is it that?
Probably the easiest way, it's all of those things, because it's the same with me. When I look out there, it's soil, but they have to meet certain, whether it's SCDOT or whoever, they have certain tests and certain guidelines and regulations that they have to meet, and it has to pack a certain way, and they have a moisture density and all of those things, which I didn't know about until I got into this project, but they have to make sure that they're meeting all the guidelines and regulations from a state.
Well, I mean, just the whole concept makes sense to me if you're gonna have that kind of heavy equipment traffic on an area that you want.
And that's the key. If we don't, it's just like anything else you feel, if there's not a good foundation,
right,
then you know you're gonna have issues. So we don't want to utilize dirt that's not meeting the guidelines, because 5 to 8 years with that amount of weight and traffic, it's bound to give.
And just the sequence of the way things happen, I guess the asphalt has to be poured before they start doing anything about landscaping. You know, I'm very interested in our restoring some trees out there, and I've asked see what
Yeah,
we're
and
gonna
we
plan.
actually, we've asked, and I know, and a follow-up with Mr. Harris, and I think he even followed up with them, where there was not, I guess they didn't do a rendition that showed the landscaping in that detail. They just have the drawing of it, and we were hoping that there was something more that they could provide us with, but they don't have that. They said they weren't asked to produce that at the beginning of the project.
You mean that landscaping wasn't a part of the?
It's
the
a
site
part of it
development?
and kind of like the drawing and the outline of it, but you want something that actually shows the trees of the final product.
Well, here's what I'm thinking about. We talk about shelters and all, but we are creating a heat island, with all of this asphalt, and we can mitigate that if we have enough green, and I'm not talking about a bush. I'm talking about a tree that gives shade that really helps us with a lot of other issues. And beautification is part of it, but part of it is just hard facts about what happens when you have nothing but asphalt in a situation in terms of heat and the way it affects people and the way it affects equipment. And so I'm keen on our having something substantial about what grows mature trees that help us mitigate some of those negative effects. So if that's not part of it, I think we need to be developing a plan. Okay. Anything else on the super stop? What about the soda cap update? Pam, you're going to take the lead on that?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. So, our community promotions per plan that I presented to the board, an update on those is that we have the Allen University students doing their ride along on this Friday, August 12th. We have the Main Street Latin Festival to reach out to the Latinx and Spanish speaking population on August 27th. But we'll feature soda cap there. The Jubilee Festival with Historic Columbia is September 17th, and the South Carolina Restaurant and Lodging Association event where we're doing the movable feast or progressive dinner is October 4th and 5th. And I'll have the promotion materials in the board packet and for my department for the upcoming meeting. I'm working with Mr. Harris, Ms. Turner, Blake, and operations on mapping for soda cap, landmark oriented time points. And I'm hoping to roll out the new soda cap to the public in October.
And what was the date that we were expecting to get the destination oriented route maps?
Soon. Honestly, I was hoping to have it by this particular meeting. The preliminary design is already in design. I'm waiting for those time points. Joey had started on them and he apologized.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Any questions for Pam about the soda cap? All right, I'm looking down to our special COVID subcommittee update. We talked about about COVID in the operations report. Do we have anything else to add to what we've already said?
No, I don't have anything else to add.
And how about the vaccination program?
So the only other thing that I have is that as of this past Monday, August 8th, the times for the vendor to be at Common Central is now Mondays and Thursdays. Same times from 9:30 to 12 and 2 to 5:30. But those times will fluctuate depending upon weather. It's like a thunderstorm.
Okay. And does anyone have questions about that? Okay, if not, that's all I have on the agenda, except a motion to adjourn. Thanks. Hear motion?
So move.
So move, and can we just adjourn by acclamation? All right, hearing no
Aye.
objection, and we adjourn. Thanks so
Aye.
much.